take a look at this. Ripple versus SEC lawsuit, update July 8th. Since December 2020, Ripple and the United States Securities and Exchange Commission have been engaged in a legal dispute that has been going on for quite some time. The allegations that the business and some of its officials engaged in unregistered security sales by selling XRP tokens are the heart of this dispute. In spite of the fact that the case entered the trial phase in April of this year, there has been no announcement on a resolution thus far. Ripple's potential liability is a significant factor that appears to be causing the litigation to drag on for a longer period of time. The Securities and Exchange Commission initially proposed imposing a whopping fine of $2 billion on the corporation, but the company insisted on a sum that was no more than $10 million. Before a few weeks had passed, the regulatory body took a more lenient stance and suggested a penalty of $102.6 million. The assertions made by the Securities and Exchange Commission that sales of Binance's BNB token on the secondary market constituted securities transactions were rejected by Judge Amy Jackson at the end of June. Ripple, which had the intention of using the verdict to its advantage, became aware of it and took action. To be more specific, it submitted annotated notice of supplemental authority in which it argued that the decision lends credence to its contention that the alleged illegal transactions of XRP do not require harsh remedies agency assert. The commission was fast to respond, and on July 3, it submitted an official answer to the inquiry. It contended that the case against Ripple is wholly irrelevant to the case against Binance, which is listed as follows. Ripple draws attention to a single observation within the roughly 90 pages of the Binance order and makes an attempt to generalize from that general observation to the effectiveness of the SEC's litigation strategy. The observations that the court made on a motion to dismiss on the acts of the SEC indicate absolutely nothing about Ripple's behavior or the remedies that are appropriate for the violations that this court discovered. It is likely that the litigation will be drawn out forever due to the extent of the legal process and the possibility of appeals from both parties. Nevertheless, there are many who are optimistic that an official conclusion could take place as soon as this month. An illustration of this would be the American attorney Fred Rispoli, who suggested the 31st of July as a prospect for the date. It was also his prediction that the outcome would be that the firm would be subject to a penalty of little more than $25 million and that there would be no disgorgement. Judge rules that all sales that she found illegal are permanently imposed. And she rules that all of the new contracts that Ripple referenced are not properly before her, which means that the SEC will have to submit another lawsuit if it believes that these contracts violate her ruling. The attorney continued. In light of the recent decision in the Binance case, defense attorney James Fallon recently announced that Ripple has filed a notice of additional authority. This is a snippet from the document. The 7-page Howey opinion lays out a framework that is woefully inadequate for dealing with intangible digital assets. Furthermore, the agency's choice to oversee this multi-billion-dollar industry through litigation, coin by coin, court after court, is likely not the most efficient method. It could lead to inconsistent outcomes, leaving the appropriate parties and their prospective clients in the dark. To set the stage, I'd like to mention that Judge Amy Goldman Jackman recently rejected the SEC's assertions that Binance's BNB token secondary market transactions meet the requirements of the Howey test, financial assets. The decision was based on the conclusion that Judge Analisa Torres issued in July 2023 regarding the programmatic sales of XRPs. Given that the SEC's stance is at odds with the clear instructions given by the Supreme Court, the court is leaning toward agreeing with the stance it adopted in the Ripple Labs case. Experts in the field of law have speculated that the commission may be deterred from appealing the court's ruling on the programmatic sales of XRP based on the outcome of this case. While the SEC claimed that a large portion of Ripple sales were in violation of strict liability, the company took advantage of the situation by claiming in its notice of, in addition, authority that the lack of simplicity prior to the ruling supports its position, does not demonstrate an intentional will to break the law or justify a heavy punishment. A $2 billion disincentive is currently being sought by the Securities and Exchange Commission, but the $10 million Ripple is putting out there. Judgment could be announced on July 31 or July 13, coinciding with the date of Judge Analisa Torres' historic ruling. Analyst believes that XRP's price might go above 1 in the event of a favorable settlement. The demand for XRP among buyers was unaffected by any press coverage of the SEC versus Ripple case. Investors were keeping their fingers crossed that Ripple will be fined for its violations of U.S. securities laws. Ripple was found guilty by Judge Annalise Torres of violating securities laws for selling institutional investors XRP that had not been registered. The purpose of this is to offer some background on the subject. An injunction barring the sale of XRP to us institutional investors is among the possible consequences, along with a fine of $10 million to $2 billion. In its original brief on remedies, Ripple violated a securities laws and faced varying fines. March saw requests for an injunction and penalties exceeding $2 billion from the Securities and Exchange Commission. As a response to the opening brief, Ripple included a $10 million penalty appeal in its opposing brief, which addressed multiple remedies. If Judge Torres thinks that sales of XRP after the case was filed constitute institutional transactions that break a securities regulations, then an assessment could be made based on that. The decision on the programmatic sales of XRP in 2023 remains another focal point, even if the cryptocurrency market is eagerly awaiting the verdict. The SEC's plan to appeal the decision on XRP programmatic sales is still being considered. Programmatic XRP sales do not meet the criteria of the third prong of the Howey test. According to the July 2023 ruling of Judge and Cesar Torres, a spike in XRP price just before the retreat period occurs because of the 2023 judgments. Would the SEC seek to appeal Binance's decision on XRP programmatic sales, or has Binance's decision effectively ended the SEC's chances of appealing the judgment? Terraform Labs and Binance Cloud's regulatory status as a result of SEC rulings. Due to 2 rulings against crypto courts by the SEC, questions have been raised over the legitimacy of classifying XRP as a commodity or security. Judge Jed Rakoff ruled in December 2023 that Terraform Labs CEO Do Kwon broke a security regulations by selling Terras and Luna that were not registered. Referring to the decision of the programmatic sales of XRP, Judge Rakoff found that Judge Torres' finding was wrong. The decision in Terraform Labs strengthens the SEC's position to challenge the programmatic sales decision in an appeal. Despite the SEC's best efforts to sow uncertainty with its contradictory legal theories, Ripple Chief Legal Officer Stuart Alderati said in a statement in reaction to Binance's decision that the courts can see through the SEC's tactics. As a result of the muddled waters, investors may remain anxious about the SEC's plans for an appeal, and the demand for XRP may be tested. In order for investors to know if the SEC would try to reverse the XRP order, they must wait for the ultimate decision in the Ripple case. Additionally, Binance's decision may be challenged by the SEC. The decision by the SEC to forego appealing the ruling on programmatic sales could lend credence to the idea that XRP should be restored to 1. If anything, an appeal might cause XRP to drop below 40 cents. The increasing activity in U.S. courts means that you should modify your trading strategies based on real-time data and expert opinion. That's all for now.